We're joined now by Musa Mdunge, who's a political analyst based at the University of Dundee. Musa, good evening to you. Thanks for your time tonight. Firstly, tell us a bit more. Who is Rishi Sunak?
Good evening, Kathy, and to your viewers. So Rishi Sunak is the former chancellor of the Exchequer. Quite an educated man. He studied in Oxford. He completed his degree in politics, philosophy, and economics. He went on to do an MBA at Stanford University as a Fulbright scholar. He has worked for Goldman Sachs. He has run his own hedge fund as a partner. And really, he is somebody who has risen quite quickly through the ranks of the Conservative Party. He was only elected as an MP in 2015 and then rose through the Treasury and was a huge supporter of Boris Johnson and was very popular for his furlough scheme and his management of the British economy during COVID-19 pandemic. And he comes now at a time when, of course, the United Kingdom is facing a huge cost of living crisis, an energy crisis, and an economy that is not looking quite well, possibly going through a recession while facing inflationary pressures. And these are very difficult times that he finds himself, as his party is very much quite divided at this point. And so the first task for him will be firstly to unite the Conservative Party. And one way in which he does that is ensuring that whomever he chooses for his new cabinet will be a reflection of the party as a whole. There was a criticism that both his predecessors had a tendency of only choosing those who backed them. And that has backfired, because when you face moments of pressure, you need to be able to depend on your parliamentary members to support you. And in essence, that is how both Boris Johnson and Liz Truss ended up losing their jobs. They lost confidence of the members of parliament, and that crumbled their whole agenda. And now it's going to be interesting to see whether Rishi Sunak is the guy to lead Britain during this period of time.
When we look at what some Britons had to say in the aftermath of Liz Truss's resignation last week as Prime Minister, a lot of them spoke to matters of the economy and just how top of mind those were. So you have this individual who has this very strong background in finance and his role in the finance ministry, as you've said. How much of that do you think is going to play to his credit? Will he have the kind of answers that speak to the solutions that ordinary Britons are looking for right now?
Well, first of all, during the Conservative contestation, he was a very huge critic of Liz Truss's policies. He really questioned whether they would work. In fact, many have called him a prophet. He prophesied essentially what would happen if Liz Truss promoted these policies of reducing taxes, that it would in actual fact add on to the inflationary pressures that the British economy is facing right now. And so what we'll be keen to see about him is whether he can really balance the books, number one, which he has promised, and two, how does he stimulate economic growth without adding extra inflationary pressures, cognizant in mind of the energy crisis that the world is currently facing due to the war in Ukraine. So the question will be, what kind of supply side reforms does he do to the economy? Any grade 10 economic student can tell you, if you increase supply, you will reduce prices. And so the key thing is, what type of investments will he make in the British economy to support small and medium enterprises that are the engine of economic growth and are able, therefore, to stimulate the kind of economic activity that increases growth, creates jobs, ensures that in the end, you have a fiscus that looks healthy enough that then you can promote the tax cuts that you wanted to do in the first place. The Conservatives have always been known for their fiscal discipline. And this is the one thing they lost under Liz Truss. And so the expectations is that he's going to have to balance, the supply side of the economy while giving support to families who are finding it very difficult to make the choices between buying bread and heating up their homes. But there's another element here, Kathy, and that is the fact that he's now Prime Minister. So he's no longer just leading the economy, he's got to look at an array of issues. And some of them, for example, is on foreign policy. You guys just spoke about, the third term presidency of Xi Jinping. And so these are matters he's going to have to deal with. How does he manage relations with China, whom Britain cannot ignore, but at the same time maintain a special relationship with the United States, while he has to manage, which is going to be even the more trickier part, his relationship with the EU, especially on that sticking point of the Northern Ireland Protocol, where some within his party are pushing on him to change it, to do away with it. It's going to be very difficult for him to balance that. But all of these things now is what he needs to do. He's got a honeymoon period and political capital, but that won't last long. And he's got to be able to consolidate his power and his authority in order to really push the very difficult decisions that his government is going to be expected to make in the coming 6 months or so.
All right. Well, we're going to have to wait and see if third time's a charm in as far as the British Prime Ministers are concerned. Rishi Sunak then being the individual who's expected to take over from Liz Truss in that position.